Hey everyone, this is Scott back with the Dunleading Warcry. Today I'm going over my event that I was at last weekend and going over some more hobbying stuff because clearly I'm just a hobby channel now. Before I get to that, I did want to thank everyone that is subscribed. We just hit 100 subscribers on the channel. It does really help keep me motivated with painting. That's one of my hardest things with this game is getting myself to paint, just because I want to play the game so much. And it's definitely felt cool to have a way to share it that isn't just spamming pictures of my crappily painted models in a few Discords and Facebooks. But with that, last Saturday I attended a Great Lakes Hobbit League up in Michigan event. It was for 500 points. This was the Fellowship of the Ring Book 1 themed event. And what was cool to hear the day of is that they are planning on future events to keep this series going. So it's going to go over to book 2, then it's going to go to Towers, then Return to the King. It might take a little while to get through all of them, but that's the kind of theming that they're going on, which I think is really cool. Um, and I think maybe they might escalate points as well as part of that, essentially going through the different stories. But that remains to be seen as they do it later. But getting straight into it, I know I did the list review video previously, so I'm not going to go too deep into what the lists have and all that, and just really focus on the games. As I shared during the review video, my first game was going to be Convergence against Dale. What we learned the day of, which I think is a really cool twist, is that the maps were going to change throughout the 3 games. So all the maps kind of look the same. There were some variations in theme and all that, and some of the detail work, but the general principle of them were the same. So everyone was kind of playing on the same map, which I think is a cool concept. I know for Tabletop Simulator, that's primarily how we do things. We had tried for a time to do individual maps, but the issue turned out to be some quality control stuff for TTS. We have a solid rotation of maps, but we didn't have quite enough to have solid ones for everybody. So it ended up just being the same each time. And also, it helps avoid repeats because it can get pretty messy when you're trying to organize online and a bunch of people. But this first map, this center straw field was the focus of the special rule for this one. So this was just a big patch of difficult terrain, which made Convergence interesting because, of course, Convergence, you want to get to the middle, so this slowed it down a little. As we'll see later, I got through it, and I don't think it impacted me that much, but it did force me to some movement decisions. I do like the open field for this center versus a big building because the building doesn't really work with Convergence well, so this kind of helped it. But looking at the game, as we can see, um, I started over here with Saruman and Jeff, the Purple Wildman Chief, and then the Oathmaker started on the other side. My opponent did the smart play. You don't have to alternate with siege weapons. You can stack them in one corner, but I think that would have been a mistake for him. So he actually had Girion in one corner, and then the siege weapon and the other Windlance and his Captain Warband in the other one spread out, which was better for this scenario. If he had stacked one corner, it would have been basically I'd just swoop up the 2 objectives on the other side with him just not being able to get to them. Early in the game, of course, I'm concerned about Windlances. Right off the bat, I did a nice march right out this way. Let me get the drawing tool rather than the scaling tool. Here we go. And let's not make it massive and block the whole table. I was actually doing art on here, which is why it's all messed up. So I ran this way with the Chief and Saruman. They kind of dug into these boxes to hide. A few of the bowmen went this way, and then the vast majority just kind of bundled their way up to give a nice arc that I had just straight out of the corner. On the other side, Oathmaker just started running up. Some of these bows went this way. I think I actually went second, so I did know how far I could move those bowmen. I think they stood out there and took shots because he started actually moving up. Some guys went around the pillar on this side, some went this way a little, and then this group in the back stayed still, which he should have moved them a little, at least spreading out some of the archers and all those, because as we'll see, lightning was pretty nasty on this one. So once Saruman ran up, he actually dropped a lightning that hit like everybody. It was a point like right around there that hit everybody within uh in the 2-inch range. It actually killed this siege veteran. He rolled a 2 high on his fate, so he died. The other crew died. I want to say both bowmen died and a knight. I think it was this one. I think the captain took a wound but faded it, from my recollection. So it was just the captain and 2 guys. So this wind lance was effectively dead. Um, you can crew it with other people, but it's only going to hit on a natural 6, or might just be a 6 in general. You can't might it with non-siege veteran might anyway. So this got me a real lucky break. Turn 1, I actually got hit with Saruman with the wind lance. He got knocked into a crate of blocks with some in the ways getting through, and a dead-on scatter. Um, so it hit him. He got hit back. He failed his first fate, but passed the second one. Or I spent a might on the second one. I did a 2 and then a 3. So I spent might to be okay. I didn't take that many losses to shooting early on, which was nice. This wind lance flubbed. I think it got one hit at one point throughout the game, but it wasn't really that relevant in terms of its shooting. Following that, I just kept kind of moving up. Saruman kind of trailed up towards this pillar as the gang just started running up. I really gunned it, and then eventually we ended up fighting along this line here. He had moved up some around the pillar, and this actually was the real bloodbath spot right here. This wind lance eventually picked up and walked over to here or so. And then a few guys that I had sent over, I grabbed the objective and I ran it back that way. A few guys came over here and they just got slaughtered by the captain, and 2 guys slaughtered about 8 guys, I think. It was pretty nasty. Meanwhile, on this end, the Oathmaker actually grabbed this object. Another guy grabbed this object, and then of course these grabbed this one here. And then they just kind of all started circling up around here. The Oathmaker made it there, and one other guy that grabbed the pouch also came over here. There also was a nice bloody battle. These guys eventually just started running up. We fought roughly around here, and then here and here. Jeff, the captain, posted up between the trees and fought for a few turns. He actually, I think, survived. I don't think he died, but he was just kind of stuck. Oh no, he definitely died at one point. And then as things went on, I did break, which was okay because I was in a position to have the Oathmaker keep the guys alive on the point. They eventually all ran into the middle here when they had a chance in order to just be safe from break tests with the Fearless Bubble. Girion, through the course of the game, actually got flame bursted twice and died. The first one I had channeled into him, and then the second one I just got it a 6 on the cast naturally to go off, and then got the wound. So he actually died to that. And then eventually Dale broke as well, and a bunch actually ran away, and then the game ended up ending. I believe I was 1 shy of quartering while he had quartered, so it ended that way. But I had the middle solidly, and ultimately it ended up being a 18-2 win because I had broken. So I had broken. There was one other point for something, and I can't remember. I think Saruman took a wound, maybe. It was something. It was something small that got him a second point. But that was a really strong finish to the first game. Dale was a concern with the shooting. If they managed to take enough off the board early, they could come and sweep up those objectives. I think he stood back a little bit too long, looking for the shooting kills, which let me just run across the board. But I think if Lightning hadn't done a crazy amount of work in the bottom, it would have been more difficult as well. This warband would have been able to contest stuff at minimum with shooting, especially in the center. The only reason I was able to walk into the middle was the wind lances were down, so I was able to not get shot. Going into game 2, I ended up playing against Julian. Elrond, master of Rivendee's nuts. The scream of agony on Elrond's model is the closest I've seen to my own. Upon learning of how Dan wants to screw me over with this event, he's also the hero I hate the most in the game, so it's fitting I double down on torture. Galadriel, Lady of Getting Lit, her once per game I become super worthless ability is the closest thing possible to feeling the way I do, not being able to play birds. It will be my first move every game, so my models know the suffering I feel. Radagast on Slay. Failing to kill the first model with a chariot charge is a delightfully horrific feeling, similar to me being unable to play birds. I will use Radagast's rule to give eagles resistant to magic a bunch. Thrain Julian the Broken. Unknown to many, Thrain's mind was not shattered by Azog, but rather being forced to play flyless models at a local 500-point tournament. He never recovered. So it wasn't my favorite aspect that I was paired against him. The event was doing Swiss, but not with tiebreakers. So Julian had won his first game 8-6, but he was on the lower end of the wins. I was in, I think, second because there was a 20-0 in the first round. So I probably shouldn't have been playing him, is my my professional opinion. Um, but either way, it was still a game that was gonna be a game. Just Julian's a very good player. He's made it into the upcoming Masters event based on his Adepticon performance from last year. Winning that earned him a ticket. So he's a high caliber player. So it was gonna be. I mean, the hope was that it was gonna be a good match. We ended up playing Assassination. The twist for this one, you can see the field is gone, but there's a lot more trees. So this one, and they gave me some background on how it could have been nuttier, and I'll mention that in a second. But essentially, what happened was the player who does not have priority rolls a d3, and you get to move that many trees 2 inches. So the terrain is shifting. The trees are growing around. So they wanted it to be kind of the old forest was this round. So the trees kind of come into life and all that. Old Man Willow trying to eat. Was he trying to kill Frodo or something? I don't remember if it was just Frodo or if it was more than one. But the alternative ones was apparently that it was going to be like the non-priority takes a strength 6 hit on something or a strength 4 hit on models within range of trees, like the trees lashing out. And Julian goes, I saved you for this event because they wanted to do that. And I told them, oh, so we're just going to automatically kill Scott. And I'm just like, oh, okay. That would have been very interesting. Just everybody dies to trees lashing out immediately. That'd be pretty weird. It would have been funny. I show up the day of and it happens. I probably would have been like, oh, I guess I'm gonna like sit in open fields and not move all game. It was Assassination. As I went over the list building, he was playing his meme White Council because he was mad he couldn't take birds. Now there was some funny stuff that happened on the initial of this game, but as we'll address after that, it went horribly wrong. I won the first roll for priority, and I actually gave it to him, which let me move trees. So what I did was I moved this tree 2 inches in front of the sleigh. So his sleigh was immediately blocked. I was set up in a manner that I kind of wanted him to go first because I thought of it in the moment, but mostly I if he charged this sleigh down this way, he wasn't going to hit much, so I was kind of okay with it. Radagast was actually my target in this matchup. I was not going to go for Thrain. Thrain was going to be hiding 50-50. He runs away all game. I don't think I'm ever really getting to him. He's fast enough. He's going to slip by. I have to use a lot to get over to him, and the amount that I get used to get over to him, if it's not screened by him, is going to lose me my army, which is a problem. So he actually ended up dismounting because of that and ran Radagast over. Elrond ran over. Galadriel ran over. Thrain actually failed his first test. So I actually ran him somewhere over here. Julian brought up a good point. The failure there, I could have shot him. Galadriel pulled up her light of air and duel, so it was blinding light. I could have compelled him to move over and shot him without it, but again, he wasn't my target, and I didn't think it was really, again, a good idea to pick him. I think the odds were higher than eventually one of the other heroes whiffed. Then Thrain fails test enough to not just run the other way. I did Flame Burst Thrain, and he actually took a wound, but it wasn't my target, so it didn't mean that much. I missed all my shots, basically. I think I got a couple hits that didn't end up doing anything, unfortunately. But I kept repositioning some guys. The Oathmaker ran this way. Saruman and Jeff started running over this way. Elrond turn 2 walked up and Wrath of Brennand. He didn't really kill anybody, as far as I'm aware. Or maybe he might have done it on the first turn. I can't remember when he did the first one, but no one died from it. And then everyone, oh yeah, it was the first turn. Everyone just kind of stood up and then started taking shots at him. The second turn, he had a spot to run over here, and after some guys had moved, and he actually got a pretty nasty wrath. It hit like 20 models. Just like it was going to happen eventually. There's no way for me to stop it. I did get to bring up the point with him that I do think 3-inch wrath is better than 6-inch wrath. Some people think that that's a hot take. 6-inch is a lot harder to control who can resist it. 3 inches is much more contained, and it's a targeted strike instead of just a mass thing. It allowed him to catch things, and I couldn't resist. So he managed it. It took out like 7 guys. It was disgusting. And then from there, it just continuously went downhill. He lost 1 duel the entire game. Everyone rolled pretty crazy. I was taking losses. Eventually, Elrond slipped through and killed the Oathmaker in 1 shot, rolling 3 wounds straight away without even needing the reroll. It was nasty. Radagast ran up and was just surrounded every turn, but didn't lose duels. Eventually, I actually threw Saruman into him just to get fight 5 to time. So I lost. I won, I think, 1 tie off that, and then I lost the other. No, did I even win the tie? I think he just whiffed. The second one he won with a roll off on a turn that would have potentially killed him, which would have gotten me points because he was my target for Jeff. With Jeff the Assassin. Now he messed up and he picked Elrond as assassin, which was not legal, but he ended up saying he would have just picked Radagast instead as his assassin. So Elrond killing the Oathmaker was 9 points, not 12, but it didn't ultimately matter. It was just a steamroll. I was just losing every duel. He wasn't even threatened on might, basically. Every spell was resisted without real issue at all. It was nasty. Radagast did 1 heroic defense that did save him. And then he won. Yeah, he won the tie the last turn. So we had 2 rolls. It ended the second roll. I think if it had gone another, I still had enough models that I thought I could kill Radagast. We were both down to 1 might. So it was basically a move off the next turn, Galadriel versus Saruman. And ultimately, I think I was okay losing it even, just because he was out of resources then. I still had a decent amount of guys. I think I was only like just broken. I didn't really run. I don't think I ran away from courage tests. So I think I was still at like mid-teens strong, which can get those models killed if I win duels. But ultimately, he just kept rolling well, and then it ended, which was the best roll. He won 2 heroic move offs that could have gotten someone killed, and it ended up being a 14-1 win for him. Pretty rough second game. As at that point, the day's kind of over for me. With a 3-round tournament, if you don't win all 3 games, you're not gonna win. We had enough people at 22 that I wasn't even gonna podium, even with the last game, unfortunately. But it is what it is. I mean, it was still fun. I was playing a thematic version. Like, I think I'm confident against White Council if I have all the tools at 500, even though normally I wouldn't play White Hand at 500. It's not good. It's just one of those. I wanted to play thematic, so just hobos and Saruman. Not quite the oomph that I would want for this point level, given more options. Grima definitely would have impacted stuff, even as just a buffer where he has to use casting on him. It would be pretty nasty to get that to work, especially because we were playing with the new FAQ in place. So Grima wouldn't have been able to be targeted even for assassination, so I would be able to use him at no risk, which is really good in this matchup. Um, but that was that game. If I can find the next picture, because apparently I minimized stuff and I don't know how to undo it. Is that this? Nope, I hit all my stuff. Hopefully my settings reset after this. The last game, I took a picture after I already moved, which is the usual. Storm the Camp versus Halls of Thranduil. The twist on this one was the river across the middle. It was a wide river. It was like 5-ish inches. And it was a serious bottleneck for me. Now I'd managed to pull it off, luckily. In the initial, he started spread out. He actually kept a bunch of bows over here. And I actually lightninged and killed 2 bows and one other guy. Oh no, it was just 2 bows. I was gonna hit all 2 there, 2 bows, and one other guy. I only killed 2 out of 5, which was a little below average, unfortunately, but it was better than nothing. I got bows killed. Then the hobos were just running up. I think I marched the first turn. I just needed to get out. He started forming up after and actually made a block out here, and then started pushing the bridge. I started sending some guys up this way, some guys up this way, and then I actually lined up all my archers behind the bridge, and I actually started trading shots. Um, I had a turn that I could take shots without getting shot at, and I actually killed 2 guys straight off the bat. And then I think the following turn I took out another as he marched across the bridge, or not heroic march, but moved across the bridge. Um, he eventually set up along the edge, but I had killed a fair few at that point, and my guys were starting to ford the river. Saruman went out this way. The Oathmaker actually got sentineled over here, and then eventually ran this way. Um, his archers moved up here. He actually sent one guy out that way. Legolas hung around there, and eventually, once I was getting close, came and hopped over to have some additional cover. In the middle here, I kind of did really crazy with him and got kills. I hopped guys over the edge of the bridge in order to tie up the sentinel and keep Thranduil locked down. He couldn't get out. Eventually, I made it across the river with a sizable amount of guys here. They just started running full force. Saruman actually channeled a flame burst to kill a ranger over here. He ran in 6 to see him and then popped him. That was around the same time Legolas hopped over. And then after that, I was actually able to get close enough to get within range of Legolas and start transfixing him every turn. So he was transfixed the last like 4 turns of the game or so because I was scared of him. Then the archers still stood there. They were the ones just trading up bodies, keeping the center locked while the rest ran around. I cleared some guys to go this way. They actually killed the archers there, or killed one of them, I think. Then they I broke. These guys ran away. I was pretty solid by the camp. He did have about the even numbers, and he was almost gonna make it, but the game did end. And then Saruman eventually made it into the camp and surrounded Legolas over here. It was actually the final kill of the game. Saruman and buddies killing a transfixed Legolas who whiffed his last fight, and then they just obliterated him. Thranduil eventually turned around and was fighting here, but it wasn't very impactful at that point. So I did manage to storm his camp and take it. And I did. I think we both broke. I had just quartered him to end it, and then it ended up being a 13-1. So can't get the banner points. Wasn't going to get Thranduil points, and of course I was going to give up some banner stuff. And I of course managed to get 5 in his camp. So I scored as much as I reasonably would expect. I got pretty lucky with the shooting. My hobos very rarely get to shoot, so they did get to in this game, which was nice. I get to actually get kills for a change. I did almost get broken just from Legolas and the archers, though. So they definitely took back some lives for the kills that I got. I think most of my deaths were from his shooting. It really just the guys running across the river, moving that slow, just getting picked off as they go, it really delayed it. I would have loved if like this bridge was a little closer so that it was more than one way to get across without the half speed. Um, but getting eventually over without too many losses was a nice break. The transfixes on Legolas is really what kept me from just getting shattered because I wasn't going to be able to deal with them. Um, Ultimately, though, 2-1, solid amount of VPs still for the games that I had. Um, it ended up with me placing in sixth. Um, we had two undefeateds, of course, and then there were actually two that were 2 wins, 1 draw. So this last game, even if I scored amazing, I was not getting up there with the draws that had happened. Julian took it after he knocks me out of contention. And then now I'm just gonna have to beat him at Adepticon, which is fine. That'll be an easy win, as he knows. I've established my dominance already. Um, but that is all for this event. It was really fun. I'm really liking the Michigan events. They're a real fun time. Getting to hang out with everyone. Everyone doesn't take the game too seriously, but they're still good players. They're still mechanically making the right choices. So the games feel fulfilling on multiple levels. It's not just go and do one thing or go and mess around. It's solid, which is very enjoyable. Um, I'm gonna mention quickly the next event that I'm going to, not this upcoming Saturday, but the following one on the 7th. Yep. I'm heading over to Ontario for the border set the pieces are moving. So that's it's a pool 2 event. So it's going through all the pool 2 ones. And then it's having no models on bases over 50 millimeters at 550. So there's no Balrogs, there's no Eagles, there's no Dragons. But as I am expecting and contributing to, there is going to be some Saurons. 550 is kind of actually a really insane point level for him, as we'll see. I'm not gonna I'm gonna show my build because I'm not sure if I'm gonna make a video before then. I don't know if the lists are gonna be public or not. Um, but it's a 4 round event. It's going to be an Ontario 90, assuming not a billion drops. We're up to 18 already, which is really cool. A pretty sizable amount of people are showing up, and even some people that weren't initially, I think, are now showing up. Now that it's got some solid numbers, and we're discovering some alternative ways to bring stuff. I wasn't going to go if I didn't have Sauron. Um, I did buy my in-person Sauron just for this. I was having fun on him anyway on TTS, but now, of course, I bought it to actually play. This event drove me to pick him up. I'm sure I'm going to end up playing him more times this year, but this is the real in-person test. What I am running for him is really funny. It's Sauron, 7 orcs with shield, 8 orcs with spear, 2 warg riders with bow, and then 6 orcs with bow. So not a traditional way to build Barad-dûr, but my thought process is I can play like a huge tool because it's pool 2, and my focus is Sauron doing a lot of stuff, and all the bows are just gonna kind of screen for him, keep him from getting surrounded how I can. I'm not too worried about shooting into his combat if he gets surrounded because I'm not gonna. I literally can't wound him with strength 2, so there's no risk. So the orcs are gonna try and screen it. I'm looking for maybe a sneaky play when it comes to all the scenarios. Basically, if I fight someone without bows and the orcs can kind of sit back and be safe and not give up any of the points like contest or lords of battle ticks, and do some damage, or at minimum prevent themselves from being damaged. And then also assassination if I fight someone with no bows and I've got 8 bows, even with them being orc bows, it's gonna be pretty disgusting. So that's what I'm bringing for it. But to that effect, I've got some hobbying pictures because, as I said, I got Sauron. So now here's my fun post. I got to play with some magnets, magnetizing my bases. I picked up a bunch after the last video you saw. I made like 160 or so. I didn't finish priming all of them, which I have to finish still, but I did a lot, and it covered me for building all these. So I magnetized some stuff, and then I started building up some stuff. So I have a bunch of orcs that I picked up a couple boxes, And then I had some more grinders that I had gotten back in, I think, December. I think I picked it up at the Northern California event I went to. But I got a couple orcs, and then my Sauron came in. I built way more than I needed to, of course, seeing the build. The only one that I kept straight to it were the wargs. I didn't do the extras. But 2 boxes worth. I got them set up. I mudded their bases. I do it once they're on because I don't want the super glue making like a white film on top. It just requires too much touch up. Um, so I did that. I mean, it's really just assembly line back and forth. I'm using the same color scheme that I use for my hobos. And coincidentally, without actually checking, the few orcs that I did for the last Ontario event I did were actually the same color scheme, luckily, the few orcs. So I don't have to redo those. But I got them all painted up. And then this was my picture as the tufts were drying, getting glued on there. My Warg Riders, I really like that. You can see if you look closely, sure, the like kind of lines of paint. It's just because the top is so flat. But I think I did okay with it. They've got some like bloody teeth too. I don't think you can see it on here, but my Sauron is pretty basic. I primed him black. I did a cover of Corvus Black from Citadel. It's a more charcoal color. I think it raised him a little bit to I think it was the right choice. And it also hid any of the badly primed areas. And then I just took kind of a couple metal colors and just kind of slashed along the edges and all that. Um, I don't think he needs a lot of special attention on him. It's really just the dark armor with some like kind of bit of shiny and all that. I didn't do the ring yet. I forgot about it. And even now I forgot about it. I put him over on the side and like, wait, there's something missing. I might wait on the ring just because I feel like I'm gonna mess it up. So I don't want to mess it up right now. But all the orcs are done. It's a lot of super, super painful work to get them done. They're just not fun to paint. Um, and then the best part is I finally unpacked all the rest of my orcs and I got to discover, hey, you've got basically all the orcs you needed. I think the only things I didn't have were enough archers. Um, but I had a ton of spears and shields already. So I basically covered most of the list and I could have done conversions. I probably didn't need to buy more orcs, but I had some. I have some that are already primed black from White Hand stuff. Um, so I'm gonna prime up the other ones, even for these crappy old sculpts. I don't care about over priming over stuff that's already primed. I'm not worrying about stripping 20-year-old plastic models. They're not that deep to do. So I'm gonna do those up to the same type that I did for these other ones that I did. But I'm basically set on orcs now. I think I'm covered almost for Uglic Scouts as well, which is another one I'm gonna shoot for later in the year. I'm trying to play the list that I'm painting this year as much as I can, especially on these smaller events. The big competitive ones, I'm still doing Usurpers and White Hand probably, but or not White Hand after recent not having fun. Although this past weekend was not that. I felt a lot better playing it last weekend compared to the other event. It didn't feel like I was going crazy with anything. It felt like real games still. Sure, it was a little shenanigans when it came to the Windlands, but it still was a game after that. It wasn't just a walk in the park. So maybe it's just I need to not necessarily play the most efficient versions of White Hand and lean back a little into just kind of take some bodies, not worry about birds or Grima and all that, and just kind of play for fun, essentially. I think that definitely improved the experience. So, um, with that, that's kind of all I have today. Um, Again, I wanted to thank everyone that subscribed so far. It's keeping me going a little bit with this stuff. It's jumped up pretty dramatically in the last like month that I've been doing these videos. So I'm planning on continuing to do them. And then I'll see you guys probably next week. Hopefully, if the lists are revealed for this event, I'll do a video. Other than that, it will be after the next one. But I might have something in the meantime to fill the gap because I'm trying to do at least a video a week. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.